I'm stuck with being hypersensitive, being autistic. And I mean, at this point now I can fundamentally explain exactly what autism is and why it's caused. And I can tell you that if uh I wanted an out, there wouldn't be one. I can never stop being as autistic as I am. I learned enough about it after getting past a white paper by a friend of mine who's worked at the White House for the last three presidencies, that there's just no undoing this. The cat's out of the bag and it can't go back in. But that's another conversation for another time. But how I have to think of it is, imagine a speeding train and the conductor isn't familiar with the brakes or the mass of the train and is coming up on a station repeatedly, different stations over and over again, and keeps overshooting the terminal. That's what being autistic is like. So for me, I talk about what my mind frame is like, what my context is going into this stuff, because what I have learned from talking to people is the inroads that I have built to getting to these ideas helps facilitate them in arriving to. And the fact that I've had to become good at hitting the brakes is shown by demonstrating to people exactly the scale of what it was that I did with my brain and my culture and my behaviors. But you will almost always find that there is a lack of, I did it just because I liked it. I did it because I was just compelled to. I'm only getting to the point of my agency this year. Before that, I struggled deeply with doing things just because I wanted to. There was always outside influences. There were always things that caused me duress. I mean, we talked about how I find a lot of empathy with other people who have had subjugated lives, because I too was subjugated as a pet to two puritanical Christian people who didn't have the agency to make their own fun. And so they relied on putting me in the hardest fucking situations they could possibly imagine in order to see what I would do. And the more battles I won and the more things that I fought and took on, the more fun they had watching me spin my wheels. But in the end, all that I had accomplished, which was a significant amount, was worthless, because it was only for the entertainment of two puritanical people who didn't save any photos, didn't save anything. Like, it was just for their momentary enjoyment.
Yeah, it sounds like Ender's
And
Game, but you're not saving the world. You're just being a TV show for somebody.
yeah, I mean, it's what I refer to as autistic enslavement, when the function of an autistic person's brain allows them to have more fun with less. And so, therefore, it becomes a method of their guardians to subjugate them as hard down as possible in order to see how long it takes until they'll crack. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know, as you've discussed things, that historically that was something that slaveholders did to their own slaves too. And that's something that happens in every culture that allows that to happen.
Exactly. I mean, there's
So
there's sadism all over the place, so like at different levels, and I do think that that describes what you're saying. It was just that. Listen, we should talk about autism at some point, because I have a lot of experience with autism, with people with autism, um, and I think I have a lot of unique experience with it. Something that you couldn't experience even as an autistic person. So like, you know, you need to. Well, it's definitely because you don't teach math, right?
have I ever taught math? Yes.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it's not your career. Like, I've been doing it for like 20 years. Like I said, so
Sure.
like, I'm just saying, like, I've taught a lot of people who are autistic in that time, and uh, so there's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of stuff I want to say to you about it. We don't have time right
No, no, no.
now.
We gotta wrap this up. But I will tell you, the paper that got dropped in my lap, and you guys can Google this if you want to go look it up, is a thing that links all autistic people together, and it is an inability to process plasticizers, phthalates. Basically the stuff that's in shampoo, hand soap. It's in all plastics that makes them soft, and it's something that 97% of all Americans have in their urine. So it's in abundance, and so the FDA has declared that plasticizers, although they are endocrine system disruptors, are not toxic for people to consume and digest as long as they're not consuming and digesting on a regular basis. And so it's in every fucking thing, including our toys, our video games, anything with plastics, this laptop. It will seep into our systems if we are around it enough. And someone like me is at a deficit to be able to digest it. And our inability to digest these things from our bodies is the thing that is causing our hypersensitivities. So we have always been the thing, like the thing that links all autistic people is that we can't push the stuff out of our system. And the more of it and the longer it stays in our system, the more hypersensitive we become to things. And that is the reason why they have not been able to figure out why some people have autism in some parts of their body and other people have it in other parts of their body. But it is an endocrine system disruptor. It is a neurological disruptor. And what it does is exactly what it does to plastics. It makes you more flexible because it makes those systems more likely to respond greater to things. It makes your cells more raw to interaction. So I'm looking at that and I'm looking at all the toys I have. I'm looking at the video games I've played and I realize that I'm completely fucked. And so the way I've looked at this is to try to turn it, frown upside down and basically say, well, if I'm going to more likely have a Dark Souls impossible mode life, that I might as well become a speedrunner. I might as well make this the best fucking shot I'm going to have at this thing. Let's fucking go. And if I'm right about all this shit, like the last point that I wanted to bring up, and this will be our closing, right? If I'm right, if the cure is to party and to have fun and to celebrate each other, and that's the thing that's going to give us unity and it's going to put this thing to bed, I'll take a lifetime supply.
I think we all would, brother.
I think I've entered my supervillain era because that's like everything that is against Puritanism. And I'm going to see that be made. I'm going to stamp my mark on this world with a big fat fucking smile and carnival flags. And I'm going to say, everybody who's welcome can come. Let's fucking ride.